Tangled up again.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for hanging out. There's going to be a little bit of a sound coming back in. We're just, audio. It's a bit of a struggle, so we appreciate you for taking that in and trying our best. So I am, oh my gosh. Whoa, lots happening. Just as we started, we got a raid. so, oh my gosh. So thank you, James, for the raid. Good morning to you too. That was a lot. Oh my god.
Loved it.
That was amazing. So that was a very nice welcome for Dr. Cross and Dr. Atherton. So we have Liam and Gray. So I made this little overlay beforehand, but they would prefer Liam and Gray. So wow, everyone's just dropping in. So this is a discussion that you're excited about. So just for those dropping in, we are aware there's a little bit of a noise. Unfortunately, we couldn't get some headphones working, so it is coming through on the other side. Please be patient. Please be kind. Okay, that's what we appreciate here. So thank you for joining us. I'm going to try not to do too much talking because it does come through, and I'd like to introduce Liam and Gray. So thank you so much for joining me today. Nice to see you.
Thanks for having us. Really excited.
Amazing. I'm so excited. Oh gosh, people are just coming in now. This is going to be wild. So you came at a good time. So I'm going to get you to introduce yourselves and then tell us maybe a little bit about what you do. And for the chat, throw those questions in there because we're going to be having a discussion. So I'll hand it over to you.
Cool. So my name's Gray, Dr. Gray Atherton. I am a psychologist. I'm a lecturer here at University of Plymouth. So I'm all the way at the bottom of the UK. I've been here for now about 6 months. I used to be up in the Manchester area, and my research is loosely on autism and neurodiversity and thinking about ways to improve well-being, quality of life, and inclusion for people who are neurodivergent.
Thank you.
I'm Liam. I'm also a lecturer at the University of Plymouth. My research is on lots of different things, but mainly kind of around how to foster kind of cooperation, better working relationships, prejudices, group dynamics, that kind of stuff. But today we're going to be talking about some work we've been doing on autism and board gaming.
Yeah, which I feel is a conversation that doesn't happen a ton. And maybe I'm wrong, chat. Please correct me. As someone who is part of the neurospicy, yes, it's a neurospicy community, neurodivergent. I have ADHD. I don't have autism, but I do understand that there can be some similarities. So there's a little bit of understanding. So I know a few people in the chat have mentioned to me that this is an important topic to them because they too are like, hey, I have autism. Let's talk about it. So let's see what we're seeing in the chat here. 100%. It's becoming more popular discussion with some publications. And yeah, James is saying, I am autistic. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that, James. We appreciate you letting us know because not everybody's comfortable. So if you have questions, please, we want to talk about it. So we're going to dive right in, and I'm going to do less talking. And we want to find out what's the focus of your research. I know you kind of gave us a broad kind of spectrum. This is what it, broad spectrum. Okay, sorry. You're a spicy joke. I'm not on purpose. Can you give us a little bit more into your research and what some of the things that you're looking at?
Yeah.
You want me to take it?
Yeah, why don't you talk about our massive survey, maybe?
Yeah, so this kind of area for us, this interest first started. Gray and I are both big board gamers in our spare times, and we would go into board gaming conventions and meetups and groups and things. We noticed that there was kind of more people than you might expect that was on the autism spectrum. You might want to turn the dehumidifier off. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Our carpets are clean today, so
my heater is my heater's going. You will hear it, so I can't hear yours. I hear mine.
We can turn that one off, though.
Okay.
So yeah, we kind of noticed anecdotally that this seemed to be kind of some crossover here, and there seemed to be a lot of people who were autistic who were interested and represented in this hobby. So we kind of turned to the psychology literature to look at this, and there wasn't really anything on it. There was one or two kind of newspaper articles, magazine articles, but no research. So the first thing we did was we surveyed about 1,500 board gamers from Asmodee's distributor mailing lists, board gaming, online groups, Facebook, that kind of stuff. And amongst other things, we asked people what mental health conditions they had. And for almost all of those, so stuff like ADHD or depression or dyslexia, we found that the rates that we saw for those things were kind of what you'd expect in the general population, but there was 2 exceptions. So autism was one. We expect about somewhere between 1 to 3% of the population to have autism. We found it was up to 7% of people in this board gaming survey of 1,500 people. And we also took a measure of autism called the autism quotient, which is a kind of self-report measure of autism. And we found that I think it was about 30% of our sample scored kind of at clinical levels of autistic traits on that survey. So that was kind of where this started from.
Yeah. So then we did some research, qualitative research. So interviewing people and then thematically sort of digesting what they said in the interview into themes about why is it, as an autistic person, are you drawn to board gaming? What is it about this hobby? So we interviewed 12 autistic people. They were all very involved in the hobby. So for instance, some were board game designers, some had board game cafes, some were trying to think about, had started autism and board gaming clubs in the UK that had lots of members. And so we asked them sort of what is it about this hobby that makes it conducive to people that have autistic traits or on the autism spectrum. And we found a lot of things that I think wouldn't surprise people that might be board gamers and neurodivergent. Things like there's structure. You don't have to come up with conversation. You can always talk about the game. There's a lot of themes that draw you into the game and let you kind of have a really good time with things you're already interested in. Like, for instance, science fiction or locomotion or animals. But I think the biggest overriding topic that people discussed was the idea of community. So you have somewhere to go, you have a place where you can meet other people and everyone is interested in the same thing. And it's a huge starting off point from just sort of meeting people at work that you might really not know how to connect with them on a deep level. Board games let people connect on a really deep level because if you love board games, you probably spend all your time and money on them.
That's fair.
Yeah. So
how did you find? I find sometimes it's really hard when you're playing with different types of people. You don't know their background, right? You don't know if they're autistic or, ADHD or, and as someone who has ADHD, I know it's not my favorite. Small talk is not my favorite type of thing. So when you're analyzing or looking at these types of gameplay, how did you find the social aspect of it? With specifically in regards to autism, like how did you find the social interaction with the games? Was it helpful? Were people receptive to maybe some of the, the quirks or differences that people may have?
So I think one of our participants actually summed this up really nicely. They talked about how when they were board gaming, eyes are on the board, not on you. So it allows this kind of alternative vehicle for social communication that kind of fits really well with autistic ways of being. So stuff like Gray was saying, not having to make chit chat about the weather. There's the thing that you're there to do and talk about. And there's kind of a social structure that goes along with that. There's obvious kind of turn taking and stuff. So people found that very conducive compared to other kinds of activities.
So for part of our research, we went all around the UK to different autism community groups and we introduced board gaming. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that then we interviewed people about the experience afterwards. And what a lot of people brought up is kind of, I think, a little bit what you were mentioning there, Mandi, about how autistic people can be very different from one another.
Sure.
And sometimes that could even be a barrier to communication. And a lot of people did mention that typically in these groups, people split off into very small subsections. And maybe they really only, even though they're all there ostensibly as a group, they're really maybe only interacting with a few people. But interestingly, when we brought in the board games, especially ones that we brought that accommodated the whole group,
yes,
it was for some people the first time they had ever meaningfully interacted with the whole group. And I think it also spoke to the power of board games in that even though you might have very different social styles from one another, if you're working, for instance, as a team playing code words or playing Dixit, you kind of get used to that because you want to be enjoying this together, if that makes sense. So I think it can be really helpful for overcoming some of those inherent issues with having a neurodiverse group.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, let's be clear, everyone. We know that having different types of people at the table, right? Different approaches to games, you're going to have challenges. That's just the way it is normally, right? What are there specific games that you found were better with interaction, or you found games that maybe worked better in a group setting for those potentially with autism?
One of the types of games that really kind of stood out was social deception games. So games like Werewolf and I'm thinking of another example now, like Secret Hitler and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So we found that those games worked really, really well with younger autistic people. So we were working in a school with age ranges about 12 to 16. And they loved those games. They worked really well. But when we tried playing those kinds of games with a much older group, who were all kind of in the 40s, 50s, they really struggled with those games and didn't like them as much and felt like kind of they weren't for them. They didn't have the right skills for them.
Right.
So that was a really interesting type of game, I think.
What our survey also suggested was that a lot of people who are neurodivergent prefer cooperative games. And I think it's not a surprise that role-playing games are very popular in this community as well. And things where people can be on a team with one another as opposed to this like kind of pure strategizing to win sort of the competitive games that we're more used to associating with board games. I think there's a rise in cooperative games in board gaming in general. And I think that's a reflection maybe of the fact that it is more inclusive and people just feel like it's something where some of their differences aren't going to maybe be a problem.
Right. Yeah, I could totally see that as someone who enjoys RPGs. I mean, I totally can get that.
So do we.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Perfect. So we do have a
That was a really interesting find in our survey, actually, because neurotypical people really rated cooperative games quite low, whereas for autistic players, they were much more kind of rated and enjoyed.
Yeah, it's quite cool.
And I wonder, I'm probably getting too deep here. I'm curious to know overall if there was like a specific role. You know, there's always someone in cooperative games that likes to lead. Like they kind of tell everybody this is what to do. And then you have the other person who wants to make everybody happy. I'm usually that person. You know what I mean? Again, you don't have to answer this at all. I'd be curious to know if anybody from these groups took a specific type of role, or if it was just across the board. So, but
again, so we did a study, I guess our most recent study on games that was published was on D&D, autism and D&D. And what people said is that they found in their own lives as an autistic person that they were very adverse to being difficult or having any kind of dissent. They were like always going along with people because they didn't want to have any kind of argument or strife. But D&D encourages, and a good GM will encourage players to talk out what they're thinking and tries to give airtime to each person. And so it kind of gave them space to maybe disagree with people and maybe even do their own kind of challenge, maybe splintering off from the group. And for the first time, they felt empowered to do that. And kind of big part of our research is this idea of what is it that happens in game? How can that transfer to out of game? And so this kind of assertiveness and independence that might come from being in charge of your own gameplay could maybe be particularly helpful for people that don't always feel comfortable doing that in real life.
Okay. That's good to see. I didn't know if that was something you were looking at. So I'm glad that there was kind of or something to see there. So.
Well, I think that's going to be the future of, so we know that there's a decent amount of research that says that role-playing games are good for mental health in general and all the different ways that maybe they could be good for them. But I think that the next step is to probably actually record a decent number of role-playing game sessions and try and figure out the dynamics that are happening within those sessions, what's working, what's not, and then how are they transferring to kind of real life behaviors.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would be very interested in that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
We
for
do have a
sure.
question for you in the chat from James. Did you find any patterns in common sensitivities, such as sound or light, so we can plan more inclusive game nights?
Hmm.
I think in terms of the places where we were collecting data and doing research for this, we didn't encounter those because we were in SEN schools. We were in kind of community hubs where autistic people were already meeting. So all of those things I think were already taken care of. But that's definitely something I see myself in like conventions. I find the conventions very overwhelming. It's hard to
Yes.
play. It's so loud. It's often so bright. Even in the UK, we have a lot of games night at pubs, which is nice in some ways, but again, that kind of background noise can be very tough.
Yeah.
But I guess that's hard to fix as well, unless you have dedicated space or other people aren't doing other things.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people game online now, which I
Mm.
guess reduces some of those challenges. But
Right.
certainly from our interviews, people felt very strongly that in-person gaming was preferable.
That some of the kind of magic is lost with.
Yeah. But then again, for role-playing games, I think those were our study. Those were exclusively played online, and that seemed to work really, really well.
We're getting the same 5 or 6 people to meet
Yeah.
every week at a certain time in physical space. It's really hard now.
But I think that's a really,
Absolutely.
really important point in that sometimes we think about sort of how is the game play itself going to be more inclusive.
Right.
But absolutely, it's about the space. The environmental psychology is often overlooked, but it's a really important part of the gaming experience. So thinking about how to have nicer game environments is really important, because sometimes they're really not nice at all.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know what it's like in Canada, but in the UK at least, until about 5 years ago, a lot of the board game spaces and cafes we had were very kind of grungy in a bad way,
Yeah.
quite
Right.
dark and dirty a little bit.
Yeah.
Weren't the nicest places to spend a few hours always.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know James is in Canada. James is in a busier city than myself, so they have more options for gaming areas. Versus us, they're a bit smaller. They're not as loud, I guess, as in some other places. So for us, it's not bad. I can't speak specifically to the states, but it might be a little bit different. Let me just pull up the chat here. I see there are lots of things in the chat, and I'm trying not to talk too much because I know there's a bit of a echo, everybody, so we are aware. So James is saying, yes, I prefer in person, but I'm not much of a role player because I have trouble with the imagination.
Okay.
So that's something that
One of the things we're actually doing next is we're trying to build some kind of D&D like virtual reality environments for people who do struggle with that kind of imagination side. So we have some kind of omnidirectional treadmills where people can go and explore the D&D world in virtual reality.
Yeah.
So we're going to be piloting that soon to see if that can help, because I have the same. I don't have any visual imagination, so I really struggle with that too.
There is a really good tool that we've been playing with as a group that's called Beyond VTT. It's a plugin on Chrome for D&D. Beyond D&D. And so that will create, the DM will make the maps, and it will be able to put in little avatars. And then our DM also would like put in pictures of all the monsters, because because absolutely, I think if I was doing a purely verbal D&D, it's incredibly hard to keep up with what this world looks like.
Sure.
And I think that's one of the draws of video games, for instance, like fantasy video games. I love Baldur's Gate. Is that it?
So
it is. Oh, I know. I love that game so much. It's amazing. But it gives you the pictures of the world, which is so fantastic. But of course, in the D&D, you get to make your own story. So the closer we can get to figuring out how to meld these mediums so that we can feel as immersed and as free, that will be really helpful.
Absolutely. I put a link in the chat there too, so people can check out what you were just talking about, that plugin. Yeah. So if that's something I want to take a look at. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. It's very easy to use as well. I did it. I never was a DM before, and I did it briefly for our group, and I was able to figure it out. So
That's super great because I've been asked to DM and I'm just like, it just seems so overwhelming. So maybe this is something that I can
Yeah.
look into. But I have the opposite problem of Liam. I feel like I'm weird. Like my imagination goes to like the most random places, and I'm just like, is it me? Is it just me? I don't know. So I feel like I'm just like it's too much sometimes. I don't know. So I feel like I can see
Yeah,
that
there's
like
this
spectrum, right?
yeah, there's a spectrum. It ranges from hyper fantasia, which is definitely me. Like I have amazing visual imagination, and then aphantasic,
Right.
which is just
Hey,
yeah, if you can, people understand the concepts, but they couldn't necessarily picture them. So
Right.
it is quite but interestingly, a lot of people that are aphantasic don't even realize it until they're
yeah, until you hear about it, right? Until you
quite
know
older.
people are having these vivid
Yeah.
visuals.
Yeah, so they're
Right.
doing fine. And there's a lot of artists that are
Sure.
aphantasic.
I believe that
Yeah.
100% actually, because you're just
Yeah.
so out of the box. My friends, bless you all. You're all used to me and they're into it. So it's always with new people you get a little worried, you know? So, and yes, James, that's right. Me, am I the drama? That is exactly what I say in my mind. Um, trombone. Trombone Dalek says, I want to enjoy an RPG, but I get stuck in the trap of finding the correct answer or perceived appropriate response.
That happened to you.
It does, but I guess
Yeah.
actually that's one of the great things about D&D, that there is no correct answer, right? Whatever you do is what you do. There's no right or wrong thing to do.
I think it depends on having a really good DM as well. And I know this from being on the other side and doing DMing as well.
Right.
You have to be flexible, and you have to let people take it where you want. And sometimes where they take it is not what you planned. And you
Sure.
have to just and so I think it's finding someone that would never say that you didn't come up with the right answer, because there is no right answer.
Yeah.
Having a mix in the group is when there's some research has shown that that's when D&D works best, when you have people who are very kind of in it for the role playing and other people in it for kind of the mechanics and efficiency maximizing. You kind of need all of those to move a session along well.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, all the comments. I love this, everybody. Thank you for contributing. We really appreciate this. So James is
Play
saying
by play.
yeah, primarily games at home, which I get that. I tend to game with my friends. We have spots that we like to go to. I'm not a public gamer unless it's a convention. Even then, you'll see me play very little at a convention. So I get that. Resplendent 39 says, I just want to say thanks for having this discussion. I have a neurospicy 5-year-old son who loves board games. He struggles to follow any rules, yet we have a blast just playing together as a family, rules optional.
Love that. That's very cool. Yeah, so we've gone for some. Well, we're in the talks. We have quite a few kind of projects and funding streams that we're looking at, but I think one that has incredible potential, it reminds me of my own childhood, is the power of family board games. Yeah. And all of the ways that I know that I'm certain with your child, you do so many things to enrich them and to build skills, and board games do that while also having fun, just relaxing with your family instead of thinking about, we need to be practicing this or working on this. And I think there's something very powerful about that. And so one of the things that I'd be really interested in is thinking about an intervention, in a sense, intervention loosely, that's between parents and kids. And right. I think it will not only do board games teach you a lot of skills like numeracy, literacy, strategizing, perspective taking, but most importantly, they build relationships. Yeah. So good work. That's great that you're doing that. That sounds fantastic.
There's a lot of more accessible games coming out now as well. Like they're making a lot of child versions of like Carcassonne and Catan and Scythe and things with kind of watered down rules.
Yeah. It's nice as well because I grew up playing board games with my dad, primarily card games as well. Yeah. And I picked it back up as an adult, and I realized that was really a cultural transmission. He taught me how to love games, and now it's a hobby that I'll have for the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
Games are a really good kind of level playing field as well, right, for children and adults.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have different kind of levels and tastes in movies and music and books and things. But with games, once kind of you find one that everyone can handle the rules of, it's a
Yeah, that's a really good
good
point.
equalizer.
Nice one.
Absolutely. And I've noticed in some games too, not necessarily ones that are geared toward children, just like you were saying, family in general, they'll have an alternative. Like you can play it this way if you're playing, with children or whatever. So I think that's really nice that you have those options.
Yeah.
Let's see. Trombone Dalek says, my mind runs wild with imagination that gets trapped on too many options. Yeah, I've been there. You just have so many, you just don't know what do I do? Where do I go? Like, where do I take it? And then at the same time, you're also making sure that it's not too weird, right? For everybody else. So I get that. And what's the term you all used? I think James wanted to look more into it. Aphantastic or
Aphantasia.
aphantasia. How do you spell that?
It's APHANTASIA.
I could not do that.
Perfect.
So aphantasia is the absence of imagery, and then the opposite end of the spectrum is hyperphantasia. So most people, I think it's normally distributed. So most people are in just the middle.
Middle fantasia.
Yeah, but some people, and the classic example people use is imagine holding an apple in your hand. So people who are hyperphantasic, and closing your eyes, people who are hyperphantasic can actually imagine feeling the weight of the apple in their hand. That's how real that sensory is.
Oh.
And then people who are aphantasic would not be able to conjure any type of image at all.
Okay. See, I'm learning too. I had not heard of this term either. So I put the 2 in the chat. So if you want to research more about that, I'm kind of looking at it as we talk about it. I'll do that later. But there you go. No, it's important. Some terms that I had not heard of, and I know James pointed that out as well. So thank you for sharing that term. Resplendent 39 says, play by post RPGs have been a hit with me and my friends, since a few of the group have a harder time with imagination, but want to explore emotions and reactions.
Do you know what play-by-post RPGs are? I've not heard
I was
of this term
just
before.
about to ask. Like, I know a decent amount of RPGs, but I don't know what that is. Resplendent 39. Do you mind explaining a little bit more? This is a spot that I'm not familiar with, and maybe I just call it something else, but I want to be clear. So I'll let you take a moment to formulate that, and I'll go to your next comment. Oh, here we go. Oh, text-based RPGs. Oh,
cool.
Yeah. So like, what is that one? Alice
is missing.
Thank you.
Oh,
Alice is missing.
that's my favorite
that's
game
what
of
you
all time.
Is it?
Yes.
The
I guess
second
we
one?
talked about this.
I can't wait till the second one is out. That was the most fun I've ever had playing a game in my entire life.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I do remember you mentioned this actually. And they're saying they play over WhatsApp or Discord. Like when they play the. Interesting. So how do you find that a better system for you overall? Like the text versus
me or
you, sorry, Gray.
You. Yes.
Or is it just another system that you just like?
It felt incredibly creative because I'm on WhatsApp and Messenger all the time.
Right.
And to gamify that communication and the idea, like the 4 people I played with, we all changed all of our names in our phones.
I love
So
that.
I really kind of got tricked into thinking I was talking to another person. It was absolutely magical, and I love texting. I do it all the time. So it felt just so easy for me. It felt just like an extension of my real life, but also in this kind of murder mystery. It was fantastic.
I think it worked really well for that game because the idea of kind of texting the role playing worked really well with that theme of kind of teen drama.
Right.
Yeah, it really worked.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I haven't played it. I know everybody don't say anything. I've just been really busy. I want to play it, but now I'm going to have to make it a priority.
Well, it was so lovely. Liam and I bought it used, and it came with a note. The person that sold it to us that said, I just want you to know that I had more fun playing this game than I've ever had. And I only hope that you have the amazing experience I did. And I was like, whoa, what? Wow.
That's awesome.
And it was true.
I think you added to the note, didn't you, when you put it back in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and responded, okay, so you haven't played it yet. Okay, so this might be the perfect one for you if you like those kind of text-based RPG or that system. So you'll have to report back if you end up
for
playing
sure.
There's something else here from Resplendent. Spots is a favorite game with our family since the younger ones can practice just matching the games of the dice to the right spots. Sorry, matching the faces of the dice to the right spots on the cards. Have you played this one before? Spots?
I haven't heard of
I've
it.
heard of Spots. No.
Yeah, it's I think it's one of the games under Asmodee's umbrella because I think they sent me a copy. If I'm not wrong, Resplendent, it's the one that comes in the. Well, I have one that's in a tin. It's in a circle tin. I could be wrong. Please let me know if that's the same game that I'm thinking of. Might be wrong. But yeah, there are a few games like that are quite good.
Oh, it's cute.
Yeah.
Oh, that is cute.
Is it in a circle?
I have to check it out.
No, it doesn't. These don't look like they're in a circle, but they do look like they might be in a tin.
Okay,
it has like a dog.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
The spots. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
So
we've
it is
got
the same one I
cardboard
have. I
version
think.
here, I
Okay.
think.
Small. Okay. Mine came in a tin, so maybe they just gave me. Oh,
A fancy one.
Spot It. Different game. Spot and Spot It. Oh my God, there's so many games. So thank you, Trom O'Dell. You are correct. Spot It is what I'm thinking of. They are talking about Spot, which is different. Now I gotta go look this one up too. Add to my list. Yeah, perfect. Thank you for the clarification. Okay. This is rolling along nicely, everybody. Thank you for all the questions and the interaction. We appreciate you so much. Let's see. What do I have here for you? Well, actually, you all are ahead of the game. I'm looking at my list. I'm like, oh, you've answered a lot of these questions already. And actually, you touched on this one too, discussing research on gaming might improve sensory processing challenges in people with autism. And then we kind of touched on that a little bit, so I won't go too deep there unless there's anything else you wanted to add to that.
Process. Can you repeat? Sorry.
Sure. I'll repeat it. I was kind of a little jarbled there. And I see your question, James. We'll get to that in a moment. Can you discuss any research on how gaming might help improve sensory processing issues in people with autism?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I'm not sure improve or change at all, but one of the researchers that we are now become friends with, and she does some great work, Melissa Rogerson at University of Melbourne, has published some papers that I think speak to neurodiversity in gaming. One of them was I Love All the Bits. That's the title of the paper. And it's kind of about the sensory aspects to games that you might not think about, like all of the little meeples and kind of the feeling the textures of things and the very thoughtful way that designers make board games a sensory experience. And I think that, and then some of the people we interviewed said things like, I can't wait to just like get my brand new box that still has the plastic on it. And I take the plastic off and I open it up and I punch out all the cardboard and I have my new rule book and I can't wait to open it. And, it's very conducive to a lot of people on the autism spectrum don't just have a negative reaction to some sensory stimuli, but they also have a very positive reaction to other sensories. And so the kind of board game ephemeral sort of
corporality.
Oh yeah. Okay. I think is another thing that draws maybe people to this hobby.
Right.
And that
was one of the things we found when we surveyed people. Actually, we asked kind of, what is it about the hobby that you find motivating? Like, what's your kind of what's important to you within it? And one of the kind of options that for people to rate there was the bits, right? So the wooden meeples and the dice and the actual physical components. Again, neurotypical people didn't really care about that. That wasn't important for them. They didn't rate that. But our autistic respondents found that was a much more important component, having kind of high quality bits and the touch and the feel of them. So I think there's definitely something in that, something there that's important.
Because technically, I mean, I'm sure all of us that are board gamers have played Board Game Arena, and Board Game Arena, for instance, and Tabletop Simulator. These are great online tools, but there is absolutely something so powerful about sitting down and having those things to kind of touch and ground you and immerse you in the game. And I think that's really
quite an important component as like an expansion to games now as well, isn't it? You get like expanded Metal Kind packs and like the 3D terraforming Mars tiles and things.
Yeah.
Like they don't actually matter for the game, right? It doesn't matter if it's a cardboard tile or a 3D tile, but there's something about that kind of more extravagant textured stuff that kind of makes it more immersive and more fun.
For sure. Yeah. So I think that's a good part of the sensory thing,
Yeah.
and they're not too loud, and there's no like electronics in it. It's just old fashioned like wood and old fashioned plastic. That old fashioned plastic.
Good clean plastic.
Right. So is there? I see some things in the chat. We're going to talk about them, James. I didn't forget your question. It was actually my next question, so don't worry. I'm going to ask. This is for Gray and Liam. So, what is a component thing that you like in games, whether it's a deluxeified component piece in a game, and maybe something you dislike? This is just a personal question. I'm just asking.
Yeah, good question. Yeah. I mean, I don't own one yet, but I really want a dice tower. We went over to we have some new colleagues now at our new uni that are really into board games, and they have all the cool organizational stuff, which we have some of that too, but they have the dice tower, and I've never really thought about a dice tower before. But wow, to not have to like, where did it go? Where it's under the table. Well, what does it say?
Right.
It's so annoying. And I love the sound that the dice tower makes.
Yeah,
so that is
so
like
nice.
for sure my next.
You need a dice tower.
I need a dice tower. I keep needing to buy it. And then things that I don't like, I hate. I mean, I know it's part of it, but I hate having to punch out everything when I open up a game.
I thought you were going to say sleeving cards.
Oh, and I hate sleeving cards. Sky
That's-
makes me sleeve all our cards.
Yeah,
But it is
yes.
worth it. Okay, what about you?
Mine actually, I think, is those. I forgot what they're called, like the little things that organize a game in the box. I think that makes it so much easier to play, reduces setup and pack away time, and makes you a lot more likely to actually be able to get that game out and play it in the limited time you have.
Nice one.
So I'd say that's probably my
Nice.
biggest kind of unnecessary accessory.
Right.
What don't I like?
I know what you don't like. You don't like when a game that could be small is in a big box.
Oh yeah, that really gets me.
Because Liam and I
We
would
have
never.
limited space for games. So.
Yeah,
Right.
and we travel, and we're like, of course, gonna bring some games,
Right.
and then it's like, well, why is this card game in this massive box, and they're just messing with you.
That big German edition of Carcassonne you bought was the worst offender.
Yeah.
It's like a small box worth of tiles, but it's the size of a desk.
Yeah.
They all want that shelf appeal, right? Like to compete. And sometimes you're right, it's not
Exactly.
practical at all. I totally understand that.
I think
I'm
it
not a
probably
big
makes
fan of
people feel like it's worth a
that
more
either.
premium price as well. Like a bigger
Yes.
box is worth more money.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
We recently just condensed a load of our games into like little camera. Well, I did into little camera card box.
Yeah, I did
games
that
so we
too.
can travel with them.
Yeah.
Throw all
Yeah,
the
I did
boxes
that
away.
too. Yeah, because some of them are ridiculous. You don't need that. You know what I mean? So, I know for myself, I'm not huge on metal dice. I really hate metal dice. I don't know what it is,
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
I don't think.
Yeah.
but a lot of people really, I don't know why. Like, it actually irritates me. It irritates my soul when I see them. I don't know if it's the weight, the feeling of them. I don't like them. So
Yeah.
that's mine. I love organization in my games. So I like when there's like a nice organized box, kind of like we were talking about, but it has to be a good insert. It's not a good insert, it's in the garbage, or I make my own. So
Ooh, nice one.
3D
That's a cool
printer.
hobby.
my friend has it. Yeah, there you go. I see it in the chat there. My friend has a 3D printer, or sometimes I'll buy Game Genic. Again, this is not a shameless plug. I just like these. They have these inserts. You can actually just put them in the box. And it,
Oh, we have a couple of those, like little wooden laser cup things.
yeah, these ones they have are plastic, and you can
Mhm.
actually take them the inside out. So if you have components in them, so it
Mhm.
closes, then when you open it, you can actually put it on the table and take them out. They're like cups, but they're shaped in different squares. It's very
That's cool.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I do enjoy that myself. But in the
Yeah.
chat, let us know what are some of your things that you
Yeah,
enjoy.
great question.
Yeah, and then maybe some of the things you're like, not so fussy for that. And I can guarantee we probably have a lot of similarities there.
Yeah.
Yes, like coming back to the chat here, let me see what they're saying. James is like, okay, so James does like the metal coins, which I get. I do. Metal coins aren't terrible at all. The weight is nice. It makes it feel like
Mhm.
money.
Yeah,
And
metal
love-
coins are
yeah.
great.
Yeah, I think that's a nice addition. And then wood and plastic over cardboard. Kind of, we were just talking about the
Absolutely.
plastic just now.
Yeah.
And trombone Dalek, I always have a fidget or something texture wise while on BGA, so Board Game Arena. I don't know if you've played on that location
Yeah.
before. To keep my focus. I hear you. Even when I play board games, I will organize my components. People will laugh and they're like, why are you putting them in lines? I'm like, because I'm trying to listen to you. So I got to do something. Otherwise, if I'm sitting here staring at you, I'm not listening to you. If I'm doing something, I'm listening to you.
Yeah.
So I feel that. And Trombone Dalek also says, I find sleeving cards and punching out components to be therapeutic and will offer to do it for friends.
Oh my gosh. Where are you?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you near Plymouth?
Oh, that's great. And also from Trombone Dalek, I support more small box games for travel. I agree. Like Oink games are like a great size for travel. I don't know if you've played a lot of Oink games, but the boxes are very, very small.
It does.
I think I probably talked to you about Deep Sea Adventure and that we should play it, but we just never got a chance, I don't think.
Okay.
They're small, like super small.
Oh, these look great.
Yeah. Oh, you would love them. I think you would really enjoy those for travel. So I agree with that as well. Yeah. We'll talk. Okay, I'll send you some links.
Yeah, please. That sounds great.
James is saying something about, James wants to share something with you. So I will put it in the chat. It's a link. I think there's a specific dice tower or game that uses one.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
I've disabled links for, I can put them, but for other people,
I would love a link to a good dice tower. That is my next purchase.
So yes, James, I will add that momentarily. And Jeremiah, welcome, Jeremiah. I'm sorry I missed when you popped in. I love sleeving. I dislike unsleeving, and punching out tokens make me anxious about tearing components, which happens at least once per game that I punch out myself. Or
like for me, I'll punch them out, and I've punched them out with such force that it has gone somewhere. And I hate nothing more than losing something in a game. Makes me so mad at myself.
Yeah.
But it happens all the time.
Why are you unsleeving your games as well? I forgot who it was who said that.
Let me see here. Was that Trombone Dalek, maybe? Okay, so whoever mentioned unsleeving, pop back in there with that. And welcome, Tracy, to the chat. We appreciate you popping.
Maybe for selling purposes.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Because sleeves are expensive. I mean, to sleeve it. And then if you sell it, maybe people don't want to pay the extra price for the sleeves, and you can just use them for something else.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And Tracy's saying
it is so nice when we've bought used games and they've been sleeved. Yeah. You're just like, wow, you angel.
Okay, so I'm going to put a link for you here. James, I trust you. So this is why this link is going in here. And this is, I got a message. Please send this to the doctor. So I will put this in the chat in Twitch, but I will also send it to you afterward as well if you're not
because we can't
to see it. Yeah, I will do that for you as well. Oh, it was Jeremiah that mentioned unsleeving. So let me just see if I can find the comment quickly. Oh, here we go. Yeah, Jeremiah. I love sleeving. I dislike unsleeving. And punching out tokens makes me anxious. So, yeah. Okay, well, let us know, Jeremiah. Is it for a sale or you just... To be fair, there are some games, if you don't have enough sleeves, you have to unsleeve. It's a lot of, I have a few of them, like TCGs, like those collectible card games. And then sometimes if you're making a deck, you have to unsleeve, and it's a pain. So I get that. So I could be wrong, but I think that's potentially what you're talking about.
We played the Slay the Spire board game recently, and that got really annoying, actually, having to kind of upgrade the cards afterwards. So you have to like kind of re-sleeve and unsleeve then. That got tiresome.
Yeah. I unsleeve if I resell, figured.
I was wondering about Slay the Spire because I haven't played it, and I was like, I play the video game, but I was like, the board game looks fussy.
It is.
Yeah, we weren't the biggest fan.
We are not. We love
the video game, but the board game wasn't.
Board game was okay.
Yeah, and I know the board. I'm like, I'm like kind of obsessed with the video game. So I was being really weird about it, and I'd be like, they've changed the power of this to this. Not as good.
Number 2's coming out, so keep an eye.
I know, I can't wait.
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
So
it was really nice though, being able to play properly co-op rather than just sharing a control and having to share decisions. Like getting your own deck and character was really nice.
Yeah.
I hope they do that in the second video game.
Oh yeah, me too.
It was a good addition.
Yeah, because Liam and I just pass and play. And
different styles.
And we have very different styles. I'm more like, yeah, I'll take some damage. No problem. Get it over with quicker. Liam's like, exactly. No, it's a puzzle. Like, no, it's not.
I say play it however works for you. Exactly.
Yeah.
So Jeremiah did respond, I unsleeve if I resell or there was time I could no longer find a particular brand locally and bought a new expansion. So that has happened to me where I was using a certain type of sleeves and then I switched to a different one and that was a process. So I get that. We did have a question from James. This kind of ties into another question I had. How do we make board games more accessible? I recently started testing rulebooks for logic loop failures for publishers. So how do we make board games more accessible is the question.
Yeah.
There's a few different ways to answer that question. I think one of the big things actually is the rule books. A lot of rule books really, really suck. They're very hard to understand.
Mhm.
It's true.
So I think that could be an easy way. So some people are actually making games more accessible. There's a range of games where the aim is to specifically make them more accessible. Gray and I worked on a version of Dixit. So kind of changing and adapting things about those games to make them work better for different populations. I guess also though as well, a lot of games, I'm not sure every game does need to be made more accessible. I think a lot of games already are quite accessible, and that's probably a testament to how many neurodivergent people you find in the hobby.
Mhm.
There's a lot about games that already are working.
Mhm. I mean, one thing that isn't necessarily to do with autism, but there's absolutely visual aspects of games that can be very difficult for people that have vision impairment or just colorblind.
Right.
And I think we're getting a lot better
Yeah.
at that, and designers are getting better, but I still see games that are incredibly difficult to read, and we can't understand what the text is on them. And we were just playing one the other day with
Salt and Pepper.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You
That's
know,
a good game.
it
But yeah.
just it's so difficult.
It had, I forgot what it was. It had symbols or something as well as colours, didn't it, for people who were colourblind?
Yeah.
But I didn't realise how big of a problem that was. We've got a friend who's got very slight colour blindness with just 2 colours.
Right.
And almost every game we play together in person is, I don't know which one of the two this is.
Yeah. I mean, even things like the meeples will be a light pink and a light orange. They look so similar to people that are colorblind.
Yeah.
And I think it's a big issue in a lot of games as well. And he's the best board gamer I know, and it would actually mess up his gameplay.
I don't know how he manages to win every game and yet also unable to tell apart colours that are so crucial to a lot of things.
Yeah. But I think also one thing that can be really nice, that could be more inclusive in games, is to have explicit game variations in play. So, for instance, if people want to play a cooperative version, or they want to play without like take that components, and just like giving people options for ways that they might find the game more comfortable or more conducive to what they want to do could be really nice. And I really don't think it takes that much effort from a board game designer to just include those types of things.
I think the community itself is really good at that as well. If you look on Board Game Geek lists for certain games, there's a lot of kind of homebrews and house rules out there that do that. So yeah, maybe if publishers started compiling some of those in the box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have some comments actually about rulebooks, and as a teacher, I'm very hard on rulebooks, and someone who's neurospicy, I also have a hard time with rulebooks. So it's frustrating, and you just don't want to play if it's not done well. So Trombone Delic saying, a rulebook can make or break a game for me. If I have to go to BGG to figure out an answer for setup, even after reading the entire rulebook multiple times, that puts me off the game. That is me. I agree with you 100%. It's so frustrating.
Absolutely.
Same for us. It's quite rare now that we actually read a rulebook.
No, we watch Rodney.
As you say, there's not a watch it played video. It stays on the shelf.
Exactly. Just watch fellow Canadian Rodney, everybody. If you're able. Jeremiah Blob, I have various combinations of color blindness. Okay. I had a copy of Set where I can't tell it all apart the red lines from the green lines. I'm also hoping to get Revive, but need to investigate because I cannot tell apart the yellow and green on BGA.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's one of those things as well where I always say this about inclusivity or like accounting for those individual differences is you'd be surprised how many people that improves gameplay for, not just colorblind people, but people that maybe have visual impairment or older people or
sight issues.
Yeah, it won't take away from other people.
Right.
It's just, so it's really,
Even people who are fully sighted and don't have any issues with that either, it's harder to tell things apart when they're closer together, right?
yeah. And board games, cafes, for instance, definitely don't always have the best lighting. Even like we have now in our new house, like a big dining room table that we play at with some overhead lighting, but it's not as high as I wish it could be. And so if they had better, kind of more effective visual choices, they could eliminate a lot of those problems. That would be really a good change.
I think it is getting a lot better for that, though. You are seeing a lot more symbols now rather than colours used for stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
That's been a big improvement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is good. And I agree with what you're saying. Like, as someone who doesn't have challenges with color, there are some games where their colors are so close together. Or my favorite is when they use the same colors for player pieces and for resources. I'm being sarcastic, everybody. That drives me wild. Why would you? It's confusing. So that's a whole other thing. But yes, and Trombone Delic is saying the same thing. They don't have color blindness, but they do have visual processing issues when they're stressed, overwhelmed, or overstimulated. And that makes them struggle with colors. And
which can definitely happen during a game.
Oh, 100%. Especially when it's like a big game. You just get over, it's a lot to take in, right?
Yeah. Or like I'm losing really.
Yeah, that's the story of my life, okay? Like, what?
And then I get really upset. And
Stop calling me out, Gray.
That's why those pieces have all gone.
Right? Like, where did they go? Tracy's saying, my preferred method of learning is visual, so I rely on the kindness of strangers who do how to play and play through videos. Like Rodney. So, and,
for sure.
Yeah, so that's always really nice. And Tracy, you're always supporting the streams over here when I'm doing my really bad solo one, so I appreciate that. I know it's getting late. We started a bit late, so I did let this run a little bit longer. So we're just going to take a couple more questions, if that's okay with you two. Okay, so chat, if you have questions, now's your time to put them in because we're going to wrap up. Trombone Delic is saying, I'm firmly against the existence of fluorescent lighting anywhere, as it's a migraine trigger to me and makes everything more difficult. So,
for sure.
I found this.
Yeah, conventions are the worst for that.
Warm white always.
Lighting at the conventions is horrendous.
It's not great. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, you're right. I've seen people get triggered for. I know even my day job, people get triggered from that with migraines because of that. So yeah, absolutely.
It's a shame. Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so this might be a good one. And again, if you do have a listing anywhere, I'm happy to share this with people. Can you recommend any studies, books, or resources on the relationship between autism and gaming, or board gaming specifically?
Absolutely. Yeah. Maybe we could send them to you in a link and you could attach them somehow. Probably quite hard to give names of papers, I guess.
Well, one thing that you could always do if you wanted to look at some of our papers, and then we cite loads of papers within our articles. If you go on to Google Scholar, if you guys are familiar with it, it's scholar.google.com.
Okay,
and it's basically Google for academic papers. And you can type in my name, Gray Atherton, and it'll show you my profile and all of the papers that I've ever published. And the most recent ones are going to be all on board games, role-playing games for people on the spectrum. And that could be a really, like, a good... Liam's on all those too. It's not just mine.
We search great.
I just searched mine. No, I'm just kidding. And we've done some research, but as every scientist will tell you, we stand on the shoulders of giants. So we cite in lots of seminal important studies for people that have been studying these autism specifically, or kind of neurodiversity in the intersection with games.
I will say as well, a lot of academic papers can be quite kind of long and dense sometimes. So most universities' press teams will kind of release a much kind of smaller, more lay-friendly write-up of that article. And they can be good ways to kind of, more quickly digest some of that information as well.
I'll also say, I don't have the link on me now, but if you also Googled kind of Guardian Autism Board Games, I think it was about a month ago, there was a wonderful article that was published that was a profile of a autistic board gamer who, the title,
pop it in pop it in our chat,
Yeah.
Liam, and I'll put it in this chat here.
Cool.
This one, isn't it?
Yeah. Playing games turned me into a person who makes sense.
Tim Clare. He's actually just wrote a book on this, which I can't think of the name of right now, but I'll find that and put it in the chat.
Yeah, I loved that article. This is a topic that's starting to definitely get more attention, and it's really exciting because I think it's been such a meaningful hobby, like in my life, certainly. And I've met so many neurodivergent people playing games. It's not a coincidence, right? This is the start of something big, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, exciting.
No, that's great. And
Yeah.
someone is asking Trombone Dollar saying, is Google Scholar the best way to keep up with your work? Or do you have another?
I think that's a great
We
way
have
to
a
keep up with
website
it.
as well called, what's our website called? Neuroplay?
Yeah.
I'll put the link in.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
As well.
Yeah, I need to figure out how to update that more. But I think Google, if you followed me on that, or we also have ResearchGate, which basically every time we have a new study, if you follow someone on that, it'll say to you, oh, this person just published something new. So that would be great. We would really appreciate that if you followed us. That would be lovely.
Okay. So
we used to have a Twitter where we would tweet papers, but
we're not.
We don't take part in that anymore.
No,
we are not doing the Twitter, everybody.
No,
we don't.
No, that's done.
Okay. Oh,
and
is there another?
That's fine.
Okay.
It's become such a toxic space now.
I won't give any of that, man.
Yeah. So I'll pop that in here. And for those who maybe might watch this on the VOD, or I upload these to YouTube, I will put these links in the description, in the VOD and on YouTube, so you can access them as well. So don't worry if you're not getting them right away.
I guess if people want to know more about the research as well and didn't want to read long academic articles, I think the Canada Plays talk is online as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I've also done a talk for the ARI, which is quite good. We both did the Autism Research Institute.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe do that one.
And then your game and lab work stuff as well. Where would people find that?
Yeah. So our game and lab work has been published. So all of these papers have been the result. Most of these papers have been the result of our funding from Game and Lab, which was very transformative.
Okay, I am gonna. Yeah, because I think a lot of people don't know about Game and Lab. So for those who don't know, I do an event with Rodney with Asthma Day we host, and one of the things they talk about is it's Asthma Day, part of Asthma Day, but it's like a separate thing. So you all probably might not see it. It's called Game and Lab, and their whole point is supporting game research, and this is what Dr. Frost and Dr. Atherton took part of. And I'm going to put the link there for those who are interested in learning more. They do have social media, Instagram and all of that. I think they're just following is a little smaller because it's not umbrellaed as Asthma Day. So if you are interested, I definitely encourage you to take a look, because there are also other people who have contributed to and I don't know if they're calling it a project, initiative, program, I'm not sure. So research probably is the best way to look at it. You can definitely check out more there as well. So
I believe they host links to all of the papers that come from projects that they've funded on there as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's about 20 or so papers on board games and various different stuff.
Yeah, it's really nice. I'm on the scientific committee for Game and Lab, and we just awarded the next round of projects that were funded, and there was just some really fantastic things. Like, I think my favorite was it's an intervention to improve LGBTQ plus acceptance by having people participate in role-playing games as their opposite gender and sexual orientation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're straight, role-playing as someone that's queer, or maybe role-playing as someone that's trans, and improving the understanding of that lived experience. I mean, role-playing, I think there's a really exciting future for improving empathy, basically, through role-play.
Not just empathy as well. We recently found out that in the UK, there's a couple of clinics in the NHS that are starting to use Dungeons and Dragons now to have people kind of like play an experiment before they do gender transitions.
Wow.
And they're finding that really helpful.
Yeah,
so it can be big in a lot of areas.
Yeah, so in in one of those articles that we've published on D&D, at the beginning in the introduction, I kind of go through a lot of different studies that have been doing role play for improving mental health and kind of lived experience. I think this will only grow.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
okay. So all the links, just before I move on to the last thing, I will accumulate this. I'll just put them all in one document or one area so you all can access them. So I've just copied and pasted them all in a place, and I'm heading out after this, but I will put them in later. Is there anything else before we conclude that you all want to ask quickly, or if Liam and Gray have anything you'd like to add? Just as a general finishing off.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
It's been really fun chat.
Yeah,
and thank you to you all as well for.
We love talking to you, Mandi. I wish that we lived closer and we could like game with you in person. Yeah, I do my new heart thing.
I know now. Of course, now it's not going to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe. Aww.
There
it is. Yay! I don't have a Mac,
It's such a pleasure to get to do this, and this has been such a lovely audience, and these have been such thoughtful questions.
Yeah.
Oh, UK Games Expo. Yeah, hopefully.
We gave
Absolutely.
One, I think, wasn't it? Was it last year?
Yeah, we did. But we're actually talking with someone that's doing possibly like a radio program from the UK Games Expo, and we were gonna maybe do that. I love the UK Games Expo. It's a really good one. So yeah, I think that's absolutely in the books for us. Hopefully we'll see you there.
There you go. See, so if you're in the area, you should definitely check them out.
Yeah, if you see us around, James, say hi.
Yeah. And so for the chat, thank you, everybody, for being here, asking such thoughtful questions and sharing with us. That's what makes these streams work. So we really appreciate you. And thank you to Liam and Gray for being here and taking time out of their schedule to talk with us. We really appreciate it. So Suzanne and I are really trying to focus on doing more of these kinds of conversations. So just so you all know, Suzanne and I do a lot of things behind the scenes, unfortunately, that are not on video or we don't talk about, not because we don't want to, but I have a full-time job. I do a podcast. I do a lot of things. I focus there. And we're really trying to push more of these topics out on streams if we're able to. So we'd love to have you all back at a later time for like an update or anything else that if you're amenable to that. No, I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
I love that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I guess, Mandi, there was one thing that I guess I'll say before we leave, and that's just for anyone that's watching and ever wants to get in touch and has any like ideas of any kind of collaborations or anything like this. That would be amazing, and we'd be really interested in that. So, I mean, now because of, thankfully for technology, even if it's somewhere where we don't live, we could still think about doing something. So this has definitely become our new passion in research.
Yeah, we've had a lot of collaborative projects start actually from people who were just
got in touch,
interested in it and have interesting groups and things going on places that we've been able to work with.
Yeah.
So yeah, do get in touch.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess Mandi has our emails.
Yeah.
Yes. No, have your emails. And also too, I'm working with, and I'm kind of like sidetracking a little, but I'm glad you said that. I'm doing work with the Rose Gauntlet Foundation, and I help organize events for Gen Con. So the BIPOC Lounge is one.
Cool.
We also have the Big Gay Dinner. Like we look at racialized or marginalized groups and try to create events around that. So having you involved, I think, would be amazing. So maybe we'll be in touch for that. So
please
again,
do
definitely talk offline about that, because they usually happen at conventions, and I know that we're on different sides of, we're not in the same place, but it would be great to have your input. So if y'all think we should do a part two, partie deux, let me know. And we'll have the closed captions. We'll adjust a few things. We just wanted to get the stream up and running. So thank you for your patience with that. So let me know in the comments, or hey, just when you see him on a stream, hey, do a part two. We'd love to know more, but we do appreciate you being here and participating. So thank you, everybody. And Liam and Gray, just stay online after. I just want to do a quick goodbye after the stream is over. And thanks to all of you. So have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and we'll talk soon, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.